Greetings, race fans! Welcome to Season 2020, Episode 18 of the Pecino Report, the show where we bypass all the hype and bring you the inside line on what's happening in the MotoGP paddock, direct from the mind of the master himself, Mr. Manuel Pecino. After 2 weekends of insane racing, we've got a small respite before things kick off again with a bang next week for the first of what's to be an awesome triple header in the Czech Republic and then Austria. The Yamahas dominated in Jerez, perhaps at the expense of their own engine longevity, but now we come to a couple of tracks primed for Ducati power. Before we start interrogating the master about recent events, it's a warm hello to my amazing co-host, Andra. What a fantastic job you did last week without me. Perhaps I should just slip quietly out the back door and just let you get on with it.
Yeah, see you, Stu. No, I'm still absolutely amazed at Manuel. We were so behaved, and we were quite mature without any guidance from anybody. Episode 18. That's nearly my age.
Oh yeah.
No. Oh, actually. Oh, okay. Don't we all feel 18 though, right? So it's not just me. But yes, hello everybody. Happy to be back again for another week.
Hello,
Indeed.
yes. Here we are from Spain, where it's incredible hot. 40 degrees is like every day. But ready for this new podcast and looking forward to have a chat with you and for the next races that are coming.
That's right. So we're not going to really dwell on what might be happening in the future. We thought,
because no one can predict it.
Exactly, no one can predict it. It's a couple of long racetracks, Ducati power. Oh, who knows? Can KTM keep up with them? Who knows? We will see. But realistically, we thought this was a really good opportunity, given that we've had 2 weekends of amazing MotoGP racing at Jerez, followed by a really good weekend of World Superbike racing. We thought this would be a really good opportunity to take a look at the two classes together and compare them over the top of one another. Now, I know Manuel loves all things two wheels, all things motorsport. So, Manuel, what are your thoughts about, before we look at the comparison, what are your thoughts about the World Superbike racing last weekend in Jerez?
Well, first of all, this comparison is always the never-ending controversy, right? Between MotoGP, World Superbike. There are some who prefer the prototype. Yeah, Moto E. No, there are
Moto E.
Andra, apart from the parents and the girlfriends of the riders, there aren't many,
Oh, bless them.
But as said, look, World Superbike and MotoGP, it's two worlds, completely two different worlds.
Exactly.
And there are people who like more one than others. Normally the English-speaking area likes more World Superbike because the English-speaking riders have been more protagonists than the other
I've got my hand up there, yep.
But again, it's a very good moment to compare because we have seen the two championship racing in the same scenario within 7 days.
That's exactly right.
In the same weather conditions, with the same atmosphere. So it's a perfect time to compare.
It is indeed.
So,
Andra,
tell me, what's this World Superbike competition we speak of?
You're still getting up to speed with MotoGP.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know any of these riders. Can you just give me a quick... Obviously, it's a parallel competition. Is this about the bikes? Is this...
It's all about the bikes. That's exactly right. Where MotoGP is a prototype series, similar to F1. It's not a car you can go to a showroom to buy. It's pure prototypes. It's the pinnacle of engineering on two wheels. Whereas that's MotoGP. World Superbike is all about what you can go and buy on the showroom floor. It's a road legal bike that's just been hotted up and had some extra engine performance parts on it and thrown onto a racetrack.
So people can go and get bikes just like that.
That's exactly right. Yeah, as they say, you race on Sunday and you buy on Monday. That's what it's all about. So,
thank you.
Cool. And as Manuel was saying there, this comparison between the two, it's eternal. It's always happened. I was always on the World Superbike side of the fence for a long time, being of British heritage. Carl Fogarty was my hero. That was it.
And Jake Dixon. Woo-woo.
Yeah, go Jake, go JD, exactly. But we always knew that the MotoGP bikes were faster because they're prototypes. In recent years, that gap might have come down a little bit, but it's always been there, hasn't it, Manuel?
Yes. But if you use the data from other years, there would be also this question mark about, because normally MotoGP was raced in May and the Superbikes in Jerez were raced in September, but this time we have, again, same scenario within 7 days, the same weather condition, and also important, at the same hour of the day.
That's right. So it's as close as you can get to a proper comparison. That's right.
Yes, and there is another thing that will help us is that we will choose for this comparison two riders who have basically performed the same. This is Fabio Quartararo and Scott Redding in World Superbike.
Yeah, perfect.
Both made pole position. Both won 2 races. So it's the perfect, and both made also the fast lap of the race.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So we have the perfect situation to...
Oh, and he's a rookie. Sorry, I'm Googling as you were talking. So he's a rookie too.
Who's Scott Redding?
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as World Superbike goes, he is, that's right. But interestingly, Scott Redding is very recently was a MotoGP rider. He came through the Moto2 ranks, through the junior classes, into MotoGP, didn't do very well, and so he's stepped to the side, and now he's been picked up by World Superbike.
Does that happen often? That was going to be one of my questions. Do the riders switch between these very much?
Yes, because World Superbike is kind of the B league, okay? So when riders are at the end of their career, normally they stick the career in World Superbike. There are some other examples on the other way around. Okay, we have to say that some World Superbike riders switch to MotoGP as well. So this happens. But Troy Bayliss. But normally, Andra, the riders that come from World Superbike into MotoGP, they don't do well. There is no one rider who has been brilliant in World Superbike and then has had the same shine in MotoGP. While on the other way around, ex-MotoGP rider went to World Superbike and won different championships. We had
so other bikes, and I may be way off here, but my head jumps to how we've had conversations about the size of the riders, and some, when we spoke to Remy Gardner, he's a bit bigger, or I think Jake's a bit bigger than some of the riders. Can they do better on the Superbikes if they're bigger and not the right stature for MotoGP? Is that one of the aspects?
I don't think so. The rider is the rider, and again, rider who did more or less in MotoGP went to World Superbike and won the championship there.
Yeah,
like Max Biaggi, like Carlos Checa. These are the one names that I just remember.
Marco Melandri? Did he win a World Superbike championship?
I don't know. I
know but he's done very well out of it. Yeah.
The thing is clearly that the performance of the MotoGP bikes are in another level, right?
Oh, it is completely.
We can see perfectly, and using these 2 Grand Prix, we can see, for example, that in the race, to have a good idea, what did we do here? The Superbike race was 20-lap race, okay? MotoGP was 25 lap. So we used the first 20 lap in MotoGP and put them alongside the Superbike. And what did we see? That we saw basically that the lap times of MotoGP are 2 seconds faster per lap in Jerez, which is a very short track. Okay, so at the end of that race, about 20 laps, the difference between MotoGP and World Superbike is 50 seconds. That is a lot.
Yeah.
Or at least looks like a lot. Okay?
True.
Because then we have to ask ourselves if these 2 seconds are many or few, considering the difference of the bikes.
Yeah, the tires.
Which is your opinion?
I don't think it is a lot, realistically. When you consider the rubber that the Superbikes are wearing versus what the MotoGP bikes have got, and the team structures that the MotoGP teams have versus the World Superbike teams, I think it's a respectably small amount, realistically, but I don't see that ever getting any smaller. I know there was a lot of talk recently that gap is getting smaller and smaller. There's that much money pumped into production bikes, factory bikes by, especially the big Japanese marks, Suzuki, Yamaha, Honda, those guys, trying to make those bikes physically faster on the racetrack so they can tout the times being near MotoGP times. And in past years, especially at Jerez, as Manuel has said, because those leagues are run at different times of the year, the times that they've posted have looked quite similar. I was going back through some of them today, like, say, for example, 2017, qualifying time difference was less than 0.7 of a second between the two of them. Fastest lap race pace was less than 0.6 of a second between them. And so round about this time, this is where the factory bikes, the production World Superbikes, are saying, look how fast our bikes are. They're so close to MotoGP. But there's so many other factors, aren't there, Manuel?
Yes, in this case, the pole position, the difference between MotoGP and World Superbike was 1.7. You just mentioned how much? 0.7.
So that's a second a lap difference.
Exactly, just 1
for
second.
Atmospheric conditions, yeah.
So, and here the question is, Stu and Andra, to ask, where is this difference? Is this difference in the tires? Is it this difference in the riders? Is it in the bikes? So basically the answer is in all three of them, right?
A little bit of everything.
But even too, like the MotoGP bikes, and because this is the first year I've actually followed it, are they as fast so far this season as they are normally coming out of the whole pandemic?
Good point there, Andra.
Is it realistic to compare it to the current times?
It's interesting to note that the qualifying and race lap times at MotoGP this year were slower than last year.
Yeah,
there you go. I answered it all for you.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I don't even know. I'm just putting my apprentice hat on.
Yeah. And in fact, they haven't really changed in the last 6 years. I'm just having a quick look here. MotoGP 2015 pole position time was a 1:37.9, whereas now this year it's a 1:37.0. So that's 0.9 of a second in 6 years.
Yeah, but you have to consider, Stu, there are so many things because the circuit has been resurfaced, and so many, and the heat, they have been racing in an incredible heat this time.
Yep.
And
as you say, the tyre compounds have changed as well.
Yeah.
They also, is there a bit of, obviously there's privacy around the MotoGP bikes and the additions development that they do. Are super bikes similar, or are they more open about the things they're doing to the bikes to improve them?
They're very tightly controlled in what they can do to the World Superbikes. It's there's a standard bike that is homologated, so it's a normal, basically a bike that you put on the showroom floor, and there is a limited list of things that they can do to modify those bikes from that specification. So it is very tightly controlled.
So yes, you start from a given bike in Superbike, right? In MotoGP, you start from a clean white sheet.
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing, another to see how the difference of performances is the top speed. The top speed of a MotoGP bike in this Grand Prix was 283 k's, while the top speed of a Superbike is 277. So it's an interesting time difference. So and there is also, look, we see that the performance here with this pure performance, with this speed difference, is clear that the bike has in pure performance difference. Then we have to go down to the riders. The riders, with all respect, the riders in World Superbike, they aren't at the level of the riders in MotoGP. Okay, if you compare the 10 best in MotoGP with the 10 best in World Superbike, it's clear that there is a big difference in the level.
Do they all come from the same place and they have a point where they choose their pathway?
There's just a factory where they churn them all out.
But I mean, obviously the ultimate for everyone is MotoGP, but do some of them go, nah, I want to get in there and do Superbike?
No, anyone who has a chance to jump in MotoGP, he immediately leaves wherever he is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But these riders all then sort of grew up together, raced together, and then end up in the A class or the B class, or
For the majority, I'd say for a large part of it, they do. The European riders probably tend to gravitate to the same leagues. The highest, for the national leagues, you've got the Spanish and the Italian national leagues. When the younger riders are coming through, they probably really aspire to get to those leagues. There are obviously exceptions to that. You've got the American or Australian riders.
Have we had Aussies in the Superbike?
Yeah. Heck yeah. Troy Corso, Troy Bayliss, those guys have been absolutely fantastic.
As long as your name's Troy, they're good. Yeah.
Aaron Slight, the Kiwi, he was amazingly successful there as well. So you've had plenty of riders from different areas. But I think the truth in what you're saying there, Manuel, again, I'm just looking here through Scott Redding's career statistics, and he grew up coming through the 125s and Moto2 into MotoGP. So he was, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 11 years, he was in the MotoGP paddock as he was coming through the leagues. He never placed any higher than second, and that was in Moto2, okay? After that, he was 12th, 13th, 15th, 14th, 21st, never did any good in the top class. He finished at the Aprilia Gresini team in 2018, went to BSB, went to British Superbikes, and immediately won the whole championship. What does that tell you? How do you explain that? Yeah, exactly. That tells you, again, as Manuel was saying, the quality of rider required in MotoGP is so much higher than it is in Superbikes or World. As
you would expect.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's come to World Superbikes this year, and as soon as he's gotten on a bike, he's won 2 races.
Yes, we are talking about the rider who, when he was in MotoGP, he finished 14th, 13th. So immediately he switches to British Superbike and wins the championship. Then he switches to World Superbike, and he's now the leader of the championship with a big advantage. So you can really see. And again, it's not taking a merit from anybody, but the truth is there and the statistics are there,
That's exactly right. And that's a good point, Manuel. At this point, for everyone listening, I do just want to make the point that we're not bagging out Scott Redding at this point. He's a fantastic rider. He's had an amazing career so far, and I'm sure he will have success in the future as well. But his future is possibly just not placed in MotoGP. But as a World Superbike rider, he may have found his niche.
Still be a champion.
And Andra, for another example that is devastating is the cost of top team in World Superbike and the incomes of World Superbike champion and World Superbike, MotoGP Superbike champion. For example, look, the top teams until this year has been in World Superbike Kawasaki, right? They have won 4 or 5 years in a row, right?
Someone like that, Jonathan Ray.
Dominating there,
Okay.
Love him or hate him.
Their budget for a whole season, I would say that is not more, it's between 3 and 4 million US, one season, okay? The top winner in Superbike, who is Jonathan Ray, he makes around 1 million per year. If you put this on the other side, and you take the top rider in MotoGP, Marc Marquez is making around 20 million a year.
Yeah.
Compared with 1 million.
Yeah, that budget doesn't even cover the catering bill in one of the satellite teams.
And imagine the cost of a season for Kawasaki should be, the team 3-4 million. For Honda, the cost is around 80 million. So
that's insane.
Then the question is, are these 2 seconds worth the money they are spending?
You read my mind there, Manuel. That's a difference of, what's that, 70-something million. So 1.8 seconds a lap cost you $70 million. There's the headline. Is it worth it? And as far
are these companies making money? Sorry, didn't mean to butt in.
No, you're right. That's the question I was just about to pose. As far as Kawasaki is concerned, and we've spoken about this really briefly in one of the previous episodes about why Kawasaki hasn't gotten back into MotoGP. They're winning in World Superbike, and so because they're winning, they're selling motorbikes off the showroom floor. Exactly. So why would they invest another $70 million? Because you're not going to see much of a change in motorcycle sales on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on the showroom floor for doing that. So why would they invest it?
That's true. And not only this, because the image, if you win, you have a winning image. If they would switch to MotoGP, they would be not better than Honda. They'd be
behind KTM.
Which
means they're still incredible, money, but not
for almost nothing. But again, if we consider these reasons, what about Formula One? Why is Mercedes in Formula One? Why is Alfa Romeo in Formula One? At the end, it's a matter of prestige. It's a matter of developing technology. It's a matter of the ultimum racing. That's the engineer. That's the maximum for the engineers.
That's it. Yeah, it's to show that you can do it and you have the professionalism to do it. That's exactly right.
So here we are. I think we will never ever find the proper answer of is it worth or not. What is better?
Yeah, and I don't think we'll ever find those 2 seconds a lap, to be perfectly honest, and I don't think we should really, because that takes away from the whole point of World Superbike versus MotoGP. One's a production bike, one's a prototype. I think if a production bike is going as fast as a prototype, all that tells me is you got to put a rocket up the guys that are making those prototypes, because those things clearly aren't going fast enough.
Look, I think to finish my position here, I am very clear. What makes me prefer MotoGP to World Superbike is that on the riding, when you just watch the riding, apart from technology and everything, you can see that the MotoGP riders are much more on the edge. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You see that they are much more on the limit. I don't know if it's because of the tires, because of if the bikes are really racing bikes and they are so radical. So you can see that they are fighting with the bike. You can see they are struggling. While in World Superbike, these guys are riding fast, but in a normal way. You understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost a Sunday ride in the hills with their friends.
Exactly, but obviously doing in another level. But when you watch, you don't see nothing that scares you constantly, and that's why I prefer MotoGP.
That's why we watch.
Not unless Carlos Checa's riding. Indeed, that's why we watch MotoGP, is to be excited.
Yeah.
The sort of things that we see people like Mark and Fabio, and especially the new generation of riders coming through these days, when they lose the front into a corner and somehow manage to pick it up on their elbow or something, they push it back up on their elbow and they regain that traction and just keep going around that corner. You'd never ever see a World Superbike rider doing that. It ties himself in knots.
That's about the bikes a bit, isn't it? Obviously the riders, yes.
It's about the bike and the rider, that's right,
Yeah, the bike can do these extra crazy things.
It can indeed. Yep,
yes, because, look, taking your words, because when Scott Redding was in MotoGP, he was one of the most spectacular riders, sliding and elbowing and whatever. Now he rides like going to church every Sunday. Fast,
Mr.
but going
Smooth.
to church.
I wonder what changed him. What do you think changed his style of riding? Because obviously it sounds like riding, the way he rode in MotoGP is how he should be. Well, no, not how he should be, because he's obviously kicking ass in.
Well, you look at the bikes he was riding in MotoGP. For a lot of the time he was riding in that paddock, he was on 125s and the Moto2s, which were 600s at the time.
Okay.
So they're a lot smaller bikes, realistically.
Before and even
the
MotoGPs.
Yeah. Even the MotoGP bikes, they are physically smaller and lighter than a World Superbike. And so, he was adapting his riding style to the smaller, lighter bike, that you can throw it around. As Manuel said, you can get your elbow down and prop the thing up. On a factory Superbike, it weighs 200 and something kilos. You physically can't do that. It's just not possible to be able to do it.
So my question to you, because I didn't watch this last night until about an hour of messaging between you guys before I realised there was even anything on, because I've been counting the days to next weekend. Should I watch Superbikes or should I stick to MotoGP?
Hang on. Did you enjoy the excitement of the MotoGP over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I peed a little.
The overtaking and the battles.
And even the crashes and
You should totally watch World Superbike. You should totally watch World Superbike.
Really?
Yeah,
Manuel,
for all the listeners, Manuel's giving us a strong thumbs down into the camera.
All right, I have another question.
Ladies and gentlemen, no, hang on. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to comment, send us an email, let us know. If you like MotoGP, you're listening to this clearly because you like MotoGP, let us know. Do you also watch World Superbike? Do you think World Superbike is as much of a circus and a show as MotoGP? Sorry, Andrew.
Manuel, if you had to choose out of Moto E and Superbikes, which would you choose?
That's not fair.
I feel like it's a silly question, but is it?
We have to think about it.
That's good.
Let's say Moto E because it's close to MotoGP. No, really. Look,
there's Moto in the title.
No, but Superbike really doesn't give me any, and sorry for that, excitement. I have been watching MotoGP and the 500s and all this stuff. So the riders are completely in another level. Completely,
it is. It's a completely different formula.
But it sounds like you got to appreciate it for what it is, being different. It's different.
Yeah, but look, the rider who has impressed most in Superbike in the last year was the American Ben Spies. Okay, he came from the US and won easy and very surprising.
Yep.
Then he switched into MotoGP. And nothing.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, you look, as we've spoken about previously, look at Jonathan Rea when they put him on a MotoGP bike. Nothing. Again, and he's
but he had just a small chance. But Ben Spies, I think, had 2 seasons to show something. And at the end, it was really a shame because everyone thought that the Americans came back or were back with Ben.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
Well, everybody was enamoured because of Nicky Hayden at that time when Ben Spies came in. Nicky Hayden had just succeeded, and he came from Superbikes as well. So it was a wonderful time indeed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was an absolutely fantastic conversation. I think we'll probably leave it there. We're going to try to wrap this up a little bit quicker than we normally do.
It's hard, but we're going to try our best.
It is very difficult indeed. Andrew, did you have some closing comments?
I do. Please jump on social media, drop us a message. Listening to the podcast, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, share it, subscribe. If you can rate us, we would greatly appreciate it. We're enjoying this very much. Keep the messages coming. I've got a few chats going on with people, which I'm really enjoying, and they're actually helping to educate me as well and bring on next weekend.
Perfect. And feel free to tell all your friends, co-workers, family, that guy in the bus always smells of cheese, everyone. Tell them all about us so they can drink in the audio goodness that is the Pecino Report.
Oh, yay! See you all next week.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you all next week.
See you next episode.
Ciao.